Welcome back to the Hawkseye channel, everyone. I'm your host, Bryce Coots, and today we have Coach Derek from All-22 Films joining us on the Hawkseye podcast. Coach Derek's going to come in. He's going to break down what New England likes to do on defense in their base and sub packages, how Clint Kubiak and Seattle using some of their 12 personnel and the looks that they've been really, successful running this year, how they'll be able to take advantage of that versus New England, and how they can set up the run game and the pass game for success. What are some key tells and tendencies that Coach Derek picked up on, and things you guys can pay attention to in the game come Super Bowl Sunday to see how Seattle attacks it. So we will get Coach Derek on here right after this.
Looks, it's up, it's caught, touchdown, make an extra point, make a conversion, I don't care what it is, the Seahawks win the game again. Play fakes him, Sam is going to roll left, looking, Sam throw, back of the end zone, is it caught in bounds? It is, touchdown, Seahawks.
We did not care. It's always been about us and what we do. Now we're going to the Super Bowl.
Well, everyone, going into this week in the Super Bowl, we've got guest coach Derek from All-22 Films coming on to do a breakdown of the Patriots defense. So going into the Super Bowl matchup, we can get Coach Derek's expertise on what he's seeing from New England and how Seattle's offense with Clint Kubiak and Sam Darnold can take advantage of that. Coach, how are you doing?
Doing good, man. It's been fun this week to try to keep up with all the coach hirings, between Ravens and Lions, but then also remember that the biggest game of the year is coming up in 8 days, and trying to watch as much really Patriots film. I mean, I feel like me personally, I've watched enough Seahawks film this year to have a good idea. Let me rephrase. How things could fit or mesh together. And so, I don't have a whole complete look at the Patriots defense for you here, just really their base structure, which I consider to be a multiple 3-4 hybrid 4-3 sometimes. And they're really a sub package defense, if you ask me.
The thing with the Patriots now, I think that's really interesting is they've almost kind of gone back because of Mike Vrabel's influence there, obviously as a head coach. They've gone back to a little bit of what he's familiar with from the Belichick era there in New England, and some of the ways they do that multiple front out of that 3-4 look. Are those some of the similar things you're seeing as well?
Yeah, 100%. From a roster standpoint on the defensive side, they have certain guys they want to use on rundowns, and certain guys they want to use on pass downs, but they do a really nice job of it, number one. And that's just a reality of it at the NFL level because of the limitations of roster building and such. Even though they've got a quarterback with a low salary structure, there's going to be players on your roster that are far down the numerical ranking system, but you're going to need them to play. And I think the Patriots do a really great job of preparing for certain looks by your offense, and then trying to take something away. They're very multiple in my opinion, but again, they do it from different sub packages. And the comparison for me would be the Seahawks could line up the same guys on the field, their nickel platform, and run anything they want from a personnel standpoint.
Right.
Versus the Patriots need to get in 2 or 3, different personnel groups in order to morph into those different looks, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's been really key with Mike McDonald. He even mentioned that, I think, in one of his most recent press conferences, where he kind of alluded, we're more of a 4-3 team now with Nick Eamon-Warrior being able to play Sam linebacker, and then when we need to, we just slide him out, and we're now a 4-2-5 team. So that multiplicity there for McDonald's great because, to your point, you're not having to create a new sub package. You're not subbing out a linebacker to bring in your nickel defender. You just literally slide him out when you need to. And really, you only see Seattle go to any sort of sub packages when they move kind of into a dime look, it seems like.
Yeah. And it asks a lot of Nick Emanwari to move from nickel to the, set to the field generally, and then become the dime linebacker to the boundary, and then Witherspoon moving down to be the nickel. That there is an adjustment there because, think about 2nd and 8 and a 3rd and 8. You could have the same coverage call theoretically on consecutive snaps, but you're the nickel to the field on one snap, and the very next one you're the dime. So you've got to have awareness of both roles, and how the coverage works to the field and to the boundary. So I'm excited to see the matchup. I think it's going to be a good game. I really do. I mean, turnovers at the quarterback position, to me, if the pattern continues and you get Sam Darnold, no turnovers, no mistakes at the quarterback position. And I mean, Drake May's been sacked 15 times. He's fumbled, I think, 6 times in the playoffs. Maybe that number sounds crazy, but I think I'm right. If those numbers continue, Seahawks are going to be in a great spot to win this football game.
Well, yeah, and just watching some of the Patriots film here, offensively and defensively, I feel like there is a point with at least the Patriots offense where they play so much out of shotgun that it makes their running game kind of hard to get going. When they do go under center, it's very limited to what they do. And a lot of Drake May's success comes when teams want to go to a single high, middle of the field close look, because he can make a very easy coverage read out of that. Where when you go to this 2 high shell look that a lot of teams play, and Seattle plays it quite well with Love and Kobe Bryant and even Tyler Cotto when he's in there, May seems to struggle in what he's reading because a lot of those coverage reads kind of get taken away from him, and he's got to get more into a progression-based passing attack, which I don't think he's very comfortable in yet, being a second-year player, being a young quarterback. And when you look at what Mike McDonald, the defensive coordinator, has done to quarterbacks under the age of 24, he's got a pretty good record. None of those quarterbacks have beat him, and I think he's 6-0 versus quarterbacks under 24 right now. That's going to make things challenging, I think, for Drake May.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think Josh McDaniels is, number one, got his hands full because he's got to design. I think he's probably got to design 4 or 5 looks that get Seattle in a position where Seattle kind of has to adjust. Move somebody, shift the D tackle, something, and it kind of gives Drake May some intel. And people would say, like, you think he's limited intellectually? No, he's a young guy going against a very complex defense that's very well trained and coached. And so we would expect him to be operating uphill somewhat. I think Josh McDaniels has a tall task to even the playing field there some. However, I do think Josh McDaniels is uniquely suited to being able to do that in these big games. He's experienced. Obviously, he's been around great coaches. So I'm looking for Josh McDaniels to come out in the first probably 3-4 possessions and have 3 or 4 different looks, maybe as many as 5 or 6, that kind of give Drake May pre-snap intel to help him out. But along with something you said, if they cannot run the ball against Mike McDonald's defense, and you're going to be in the shotgun where we can see the football, from a 2nd and 3rd level, you're in trouble if you're not able to run the football. And that's been what's held the Rams offense together against them, is they've been able to get the run game going. I think last game, 22 carries, 114 or something like that. If you can't get somewhere around that 5 yards per carry mark, you're going to be operating uphill at a steep incline, if you ask me.
Yeah, and it's going to be challenging, I think, just because of the fact that even in the receiving core for New England, you don't have a lot of separators that can really create with speed. You've got Bode, you've got, Stephon Diggs, but you got Mac Hollins there. You don't have anyone really that can separate, and you've got to look at that defensive backfield for Seattle with Reek Wall, Josh Jobe, and Devin Witherspoon and Nicky Manori. All of them are relatively really good athletes. They're quick, they're twitchy. To your point, Josh McDaniels has a lot on his plate to try and devise a game plan to consistently give his quarterback easy reads, to get the ball out, to not allow Seattle's pass rush to get after him. But then on the flip side, also be explosive enough to cause Mike McDonald and that Seahawks defense to at least go back on their heels a little bit, which I think is going to be a bit of a tall task for him to do consistently throughout a 4-quarter game. But with that being said, let's flip to the other side, Coach, and let's kind of go through what these Patriots are going to do to Sam Darnold and Clint Kubiak. And I know you've got some great clips here you're going to break down for the viewers of this, which I'm really looking forward to. So we'll bring those up on the screen right now, and I'll let you just walk them through it.
Yeah, so this will be just a primer on what their base defense is and what you, not necessarily you, but fans listening, watching here who intend to watch the game can look for pre-snap. First of all, the NFL should be giving all of us more information pre-snap live on the broadcast. They do a piss poor job of that relative to other sports. And they should be giving us information like this. Maybe not on the screen here, certainly not overlaid over top of a player, but somewhere on the screen we should get this information. So Denver, jumbo 12 personnel, that would be very easy to overlay. And New England, base 3-4/4-3. And the reason why I have a slash there doesn't make sense. Obviously, this is film from last week against the Broncos, is because of this guy over here. I believe he went to Hawaii, maybe been in the league 5, 6, 7 years. Very underrated player, in my opinion. I would call him their Sam. Of course, the Seahawks either don't have a Sam or their Sam is a nickel, Nick Manwari. So keep that in mind if you wish and compare it. Of course, Nick Manwari is never going to be set to the boundary as the nickel DB. He's always going to be set to the field. And so if you want to have some intel about things pre-snap, generally if you see 48 on the field for the Patriots, that means that you've got either 2 tight ends on the field for the offense, 12 personnel or 22, or you've got 2 running backs on the field, 21 personnel again, or 22. Does it make sense? You got me?
All right. I got you, Coach.
All right. So what I would suggest is 2 things. You know, you're going to see this stunt a ton from this Patriots team. It's going to occur over here on the right side of our screen, and it's between the guy that I would consider to be their rush end or their jack, whatever the name is for it. It's the guy who lines up opposite of 48. And they do this stunt a ton. And where the defensive tackle is stepping upfield, this is not a pass rush stunt. This is designed to stop duo or inside zone. It's designed to mess with blocking scheme rules. And 33 is like folding underneath. I've seen this, I've seen that in their film probably 14 times in the 5 games that I've watched. I mean, it's there a ton. Sometimes they read it, okay? So it seems easy to be like, oh, well, let's just run outside zone, Adam. That guy dives underneath. They got a huge problem. They're very smart. I've seen them set up here. If this tackle steps to him, he's not going to run that stunt. He's going to read it. So they have some things in their defense that make them prepared, but I would like to see Seattle run the outside zone with Kenneth Walker. And where I'd like to see him run it is into the boundary. I'd like to see him run it to the short side of the field, especially if we get 48 over there. Not that he's not a good football player. He is. What it means is the look you're going to get. The 1 technique and the 5 technique are attached to 48 if he's into the boundary. It's an underfront. It's an underfront. So any of that not make sense?
No, that all makes sense, Coach. That's all good. So basically, in that situation, you're running that outside zone into the boundary to basically give yourself an easier opportunity for angles of your blocks.
That's right. You know what you're going to get. You know what you're going to get here. Maybe you just go. A lot of times these teams just go up immediately and they ask this guy to scoop that guy on the backside with very little help compared to these other 2, potential combos. I think the reason why I like it is if 48 is into the boundary, then you know what you're going to get. So Clint Kubiak can go 21 personnel or 12 personnel and know, okay, 48's over here to the boundary. I'm going to get a 5. I'm going to get a 1. That's extremely reliable if 48 is on the field. And so if a novice like me can figure this out, of course, Clint Kubiak and the offensive staff, they figured this out, 96 hours ago, if not sooner before then. You know what I mean? Conversely, if you're a fan and you want to watch the game and try to just maybe think about, okay, what are the Patriots trying to do here and why? Let's do it the other way. So this is the very next play, in fact. That was a 3-yard run. This is a 2nd and 7. And so this is why I'm calling it a 3-4, 4-3 hybrid. 48 is now set to the field. Very next snap, same defensive personnel. Where's the 5 technique? Attached to him, the same side. Let me give you the end zone angle. Hold on a second. So 48's here. The 1 technique is on his side. The 5 technique is also on his side, right? The rush or the jack, whatever you want to call him, he's got the 3 technique to his side. So Kubiak's got these very predictable looks, and the Broncos knew what they were going to get. The Broncos were doing this a ton where they were, 2 receivers on the field and then motioning those 2 receivers to the field. And what they're doing is using this guy as a pre-snap indicator. Think about it this way. 48, tough dude. He's carved out a career for himself. I think he's on his 2nd or 3rd team. They don't want him out in coverage against receivers, obviously, right?
Right.
So when he's out there set to the – go ahead.
I was going to say, and this is how you're creating that matchup of forcing him to come out of the box.
Exactly.
With the motion. And
they know it's zone. You're getting that when he widens up to the field, it's zone every time. So again, now this is only one example, but Kubiak and the staff there in Seattle have certainly been able to find other things like this. And I think this is the reason why I would say it's a little easy to pick up on for fans, all of us watching the game live, but also if you're, anyone who's willing to study the film, I'm certainly not the only person who noticed something like this. Is very simple, is because they're a sub-package defense versus the Seahawks. This is going to be Nick Manwari. Just because he widens up doesn't mean that you're going to get zone. You don't know what the heck it's going to be,
Right.
So you've got some things I think that are different with their defense versus Seattle's, even though they've been, incredibly successful, obviously, in the playoffs. So that'd be one thing I would suggest fans to look for if, is again, you're not getting this information. Let me go back to that. Sorry. All right. It's still not there. There we go. You're not getting this information like this from the broadcast. New England, base 3-4. Amazon Prime does a great job, though, of putting stuff out, right?
They do. They do, yeah.
Apex means this guy is apexing out. He's moving out of the box. There's different terminology for it. But they could certainly give us this stuff. And then what you as a fan would know to do is if you've, been prepared like this, okay, they're in their base 3-4. That means 48's on the field. These guys who think they know what they're talking about have told me, okay, see whether he's to the boundary or the field. Basically, if he's to the boundary, like the previous play, he's going to be an OLB on the line. If he's set to the field, like this play, he's going to be a 4-3 inside linebacker.
Yeah.
Occasionally he'll walk up, but that's pretty much something you can look for as a fan, if you're in 12 personnel or if you're in 21 or 22.
I think those are great keys because that, for a quarterback like Sam Darnold, for an offensive coordinator like Kubiak, it really starts giving you cheats to the test.
And you get, a long part and parcel to that is once he widens up, you can oftentimes look at these guys and they are very close as far as their depth. And then when he's off the field, 48, when he's off the field against 11 personnel, stuff like that, you're oftentimes Gonzalez is up here a little bit closer, and this safety is either at the same depth or he's deeper. So you get this very easy tell for an NFL quarterback, especially an experienced one like Sam Darnold. Okay, I think we got zone. Now look, Patriots and teams, when they have 2 weeks to prepare, maybe they change something up like this. I doubt it because they don't want this guy in man coverage. If anything, they'd walk him up and bring him. He's not a real great pass rush guy, to be honest with you. He's more of a run-stopping type player out there on the edge. Make sense so far?
Makes total sense.
Another look that you're going to see, and then I'll show you a little bit of Seahawks film and how I think it could match up. These things could mesh. This is the pick 6 by Marcus Jones, the nickel DB, who's a second-team All-Pro for the Patriots. It's 12 personnel. It's a 5-1 look. So 48 is off the field. They don't have They don't have their hybrid Sam on. He's been replaced by Landry. The guy, he's their sack leader, 8.5 sacks, right? But what they've done is they've got 2 edge defenders, 44 and 2 Landry, and then 1 inside linebacker. That's Robert Spillane. He didn't play in the Week 16 matchup against the Ravens. Neither did Milton Williams. That's why some of that film from the Week 16 matchup against the Ravens, I kind of like discount a little bit,
right?
Because they were not the same defense at all,
right.
But so this is another look, and if you get this look, in my opinion, you're Kubiak and Sam Darnold. You get this 5-1 look where they take, got 3 safeties on the field, and they roll 2 of them up in the box. They're creating a 5-3 is what they're doing. I think you want to run outside zone, and I think, from a 12 personnel platform with 1 tight end to the right, 1 tight end to the left, and that's why I got these 2 blue arrows there. Like 12 personnel has been Kubiak's jam all year. From a run standpoint, I want to see it, and I want to see if the Patriots can stop it. I call it a 5-1. I know some people call it a 3-3.
Okay.
Linebacker.
It's interesting.
Linebacker.
Coach, like how they play that with such a tightness there within the box, right? You basically got, I think it's 2-3 techs and on a 0 tech.
Yep.
Based on this look. And then you've got your outside edge. It's, to your point with that wide zone, you're running that wide zone either way. Even if you shift the tight end to basically get, 2 tight ends to one side, you're creating a massive leverage advantage to your run to that outside.
You're talking about those guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think they're gonna, in their brain, they're gonna think, okay, we're gonna go to this because we're gonna try to put tremendous pressure on that center matchup right there. And then it will be imperative if we're, let's say we're running it over here, it'll be imperative that these guys handle those 2
right
in some manner. But the thing that interests me from this look is, if we're running the outside zone, let's say into the boundary again, which is where I want to see it a lot, the reaction that you're going to get from 44 and 2 is different than the reaction you're going to get from 48. The guy that we talked about,
right? Because
he's more slow play it, don't go until you know. And these guys are more, let's go after the quarterback. Let's go attack the quarterback. That's right. So they're quicker to veer off the quarterback. That's really what leads to the pick 6 here.
Right, because he's not playing the zone. He's basically playing that backside boot, waiting for it. And so if you actually go there and Landry's undersized as an edge setting end, this is a huge advantage for you. And this is where I think, if he's healthy, Robbie Oots plays a big factor. To your point, you can come out in 12 personnel too tight and shift into a 21 look offset and just run your outside zone that way as well.
Yep. I think outside zone, and I think that some of it is going to be a play concept, but not direction. So in particular against these looks, these what we would call balanced looks. So you've got, everything over here to the left looks the same as everything over here to the right. Right? Edge defender, 3 technique. This guy's a little wider than 25, but you get the idea. They're safeties.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking for from, a Darnold perspective. If they get this 5-1 look, you won't know as a fan because, I don't even know what color jerseys are the Seahawks wearing.
Seahawks are wearing dark blue and the Patriots are wearing their all white colors. So you actually might be able to figure it out relatively quickly if you're looking for it.
Yeah. Yeah. If they gave you some information on the screen, like I compare everything to the UFC, and even like other MMA organizations or boxing. They give you a ton of information on the screen, and the commentators, are giving you information. Oh, they're literally giving you information in live time. No one talks at all pre-snap about the personnel on the field for the offense or the defense because they're probably still talking about the quarterback stuff from the previous play, because that's all they talk about generally.
So I got a question for you, Coach. When they're in this, like you look at the Texans right now and from this wide angle shot, they're in a condensed split as well. Do you think that's going to be a huge advantage for Seattle? And this is how they've deployed a condensed split with their 12 personnel?
Yeah, so I mean, you're going to get, you do see Gonzalez is up in the receiver's face, but Carlton Davis III is off. So another way that some people prefer, not at this level, I can't pretend to know this level, but at our level, high school, was where's the off corner? Where's the off corner? And so sometimes in a given week, you've got a play concept, outside zone, toss, whatever. So they call toss, but they don't tell Sam Darnold what direction to run it in. And he's coming up looking at whatever.
Right.
He sees this compared to that and says, all right, well, we're gonna toss it over here. We don't need to block this guy because we're running it down here, and we're not going to block this guy. So we're going to go and we're going to deal with all of this on the inside, pull something and lead. So my point, or maybe I'm not doing a good job answering your question, is I think you're going to be looking at some concept calls for Sam Darnold, and then he's got to pick the correct side to run it to, if that makes sense.
Right. Based off of what their alignment is, which makes total sense because in this case, what you could do, to your point, if you toss to the off corner and you leave him unblocked, is that backside tight end can basically scrape and almost pull across after he half motions, and he's now leading out to that corner. And really, you're leaving that safety on the middle of the field as the last guy to kind of make that tackle.
Not blocking this guy, not blocking this guy, at least not blocking him initially, and probably making this guy chase the toss from behind, which he could do. I think the play action boot is a big game, a big thing here this game.
Okay.
For me, I picked some Seahawks plays here. I hope that's okay. I don't know what your time frame
absolutely.
is.
But, no, go for it, Coach.
So, this isn't a complete look at their defense, but I screen record when I watch film. I don't go to NFL Pro and download individual plays. First of all, I don't like the graphic up here, the NFL Pro graphic, but I like to screen record because then I can take all 12 personnel plays, move them into the same folder.
Right.
All 11 personnel plays, move them into the same folder, and I feel like that helps me organize. To your point about what you said a little while ago, this is 21 personnel because that's Oots, but it's a 12 personnel formation, because he's lined up as a slot tight end. And this is a little bit related to what we just talked about. You got an off corner. Well, you got two off corners, right? You got two of them. So this may not be a directional call. I don't even know if Kubiak uses them. I would hope that he does this week, to look for where to run it, which edge defender to run it at, which D tackle to run it at. I wouldn't be a huge fan of running at Christian Barmore. I think he's, when he's in that 5 technique, he's a real problem. When he's a 3 technique, he's still very good, but I feel like he's a little bit better as a 5 technique. But this is that toss double that everybody in the NFC West uses, except for the Cardinals, right? Who knows what the Cardinals
right?
Do.
Exactly.
But you're stepping to this defensive end edge defender with the first tight end and then the second tight end, or in this case fullback, going in motion. I want to see this. I want to see those edge defenders for the Patriots, who already are taught and so heavy on staying to the outside, get expanded even further.
Just watch them out
by this, and depending on who's on the field, if this backside guy is 48 to me, I want to run the run concepts away from 48 or to him, fine. But when I do run the boot, I want to run the boot back to 48 because I think he's going to be a little slower getting to the quarterback than 44, 2, or 33.
No, and it makes sense. And this is kind of what I've kind of seen with this New England defense. You can get these type of plays based on their alignment a lot of the time. And you can basically just wash out and assist their guys and go in the direction you want them to. There's not going to be much fight there.
Yep. Some of those guys that chase things down from the backside, maybe the Patriots start doing that. Different answers that Kubiak has. Again, this is 21 personnel. The fullback is here, but it's a 12 personnel formation. Keep in mind what we talked about the first 2 plays. 21 personnel presented. you're going to get their base defense. You're going to get 48 on the field. You may get a 5-1 depending on down and distance, but Darnold's gonna know that. Kubiak's gonna prep him for that. So those guys are running down the line and disrupting things, and that they're just gonna cut him off on the backside, kind of like you said a little while ago. This is Oots dealing with T.J. Watt, just trying to muddy things up for him. I really like the designed wind back stuff with Kenneth Walker.
The backside zone cutback stuff where you lead like you're going to zone left. He hits that backside, you seal it off, and he's taking that backside lane and backside hole.
Yep. I'm not sure that this one is, I don't know that he's told on this one this early in the season, but I know here late there's been a number of plays where I watch it and I'm like, okay, that's definitely the point of attack for them. And, in this case, you got the tackle moving up to this inside linebacker. What leads me to believe this could be a design wind back is this right here. They're tying TJ Watt up, number one. Number two, also sending Kupp. Look at Kupp's angle. He's going to the inside linebacker. But when the inside linebacker disappears, he moves up. He's not going to be a wasted guy. So I agree with you. I think there's things there based off the run game. I know that most people would probably rather talk about the pass game. Can Christian Gonzalez guard JSN, et cetera, et cetera? Kubiak's can move JSN around.
Yeah, he did it very well in the championship game, causing problems for that Chris Shula defense, motioning him and lining up in the backfield and basically running RB scissors out of the backfield with JSN running the corner route.
Yeah, if Kubiak and the offensive staff have as much of a bead on coverages in the Super Bowl as they did against the Rams, you got a great shot. Because I was amazed to watch the film, like 6 or 8 times in the first half. I'm like, these are the perfect routes for this coverage. He literally seemed to know the coverage that was being played. I don't know what percent of the time. It was a lot.
Right.
Well, I guess 2 more here, but same formation. One that's it's been my favorite all year. So this could be projection on my part. Hey, I hope they run this a lot because it's the one I like the most. Well, I think it's been the most effective from a run pass standpoint, meaning high level of efficiency and reliability in the run game and high level of efficiency and production in the pass game. They're making this look like toss double, the same play that we showed 2 snaps ago, right? You can see the one tight end, I think it's Saubert, right? Motion and across.
Yep.
So as if the front side tight end Barner is going to take that edge defender, and then Saubert, actually I guess Saubert would, he'd be going inside out, to expand him on the toss double. So they're making it look like that. And then this is, of course, the unbelievable completion to Derek Young. I don't know if people still remember this one. It was sick. That Darnold threw it because he's got this edge defender veering off to him. I think 44, 33, and maybe even Landry too. Number 2, I think those guys are going to be a little quicker to get to Darnold than we get here. But some of that is the width that these guys present. Sometimes we used to widen these guys up if we were booting to that side because we wanted to get this guy another half yard or 3/4 of a yard wider to give that quarterback time. I don't know that the Seahawks necessarily do that. I'm just letting your audience know those are things that you can do to give the quarterback a little bit more time. This is sick. Moving to his left.
Yeah, and throws basically Young open in a way based on where that corner is in relation to where he is to Sam.
Yeah, it's a great catch by Young. That's the one thing I think that stuck out all year for me on both sides, offense and defense for the Seahawks, is that they trust whoever's in the game. Ty Okada, Drake Thomas, whoever is out there, they trust them, and Sam Darnold is a big part of that, if you ask me. I think this formation is going to be one where they have a high degree of reliability for the coverages they're going to get. And Kubiak's offense, his bag, if you will, of plays from this formation is a big one. got a lot of depth and a lot of width. I would like to see this one. This will be the last one I show if you want, but it's up to you.
Oh, you can keep going, Coach. You got time.
All right. This one's obviously not against a good defense, but I love the concept here because and if you recall, they used this I think for a touchdown in Arizona, except it was to the other side. A running back's going to motion out. It's 12 personnel, and how often in this day and age do you see under center empty? Like nobody does that. You know what I mean? But the running back getting out of here can play games with, second level defenders, but they're doing this against a nickel platform. That's a nickel DB, Alontae Taylor. And then these two guys are inside linebackers. So the Saints were peeling their defensive ends sometimes. And that's kind of what happens here, right? So they're trying to match numbers with the running back being pushed out there. It still doesn't matter because you get is Torrey Horton on the vertical, and then this is Barner. This is that ridiculous catch that he made, down on the right sideline. I think that you can get stuff like this done against this Patriots defense. You got to be able to pass pro. They don't have a ton of sacks. Darnold was only sacked this year, 27 times overall?
I believe so, yeah.
So that's a amazing stat. I don't know where that ranks for the year, but the Patriots defense only had 34 sacks. So you've got a combination here, if you ask me, 12 personnel, especially on early downs. If Kubiak wanted to go to some of these pass concepts, I think that Darnold's going to have time, and then it'll just be a matter of, guys getting open and Darnold knowing where to throw the football.
Exactly, right. And it seems like the one thing I noticed the Patriots a lot is they have very simplistic tells to their corners on when they're in zone versus when they're in man, and they just give it away, which is fine. But when you're playing a more veteran quarterback like a Sam Darnold, that's going to be something where he's going to pick up on that relatively quickly, as will Clint Kubiak as a veteran play caller.
Yeah, and they're a sub-package defense. So, I know that but listeners may not. Darnold's going to get information, not just play call. He'll be prepped on the various looks. So, this is their 3-4 look because you see 48s on the field. I know that you guys the viewers can't see it, but you got their 3-4 personnel look. You've also got their 4-2 nickel look, which I haven't shown here. We did show, I think, one play, the 5-1 nickel. That was the pick six. That was the pick six by Marcus Jones. So let's say they go 12 personnel, regardless of formation. Kubiak is going to tell Darnold, what they're in, probably at the end of the play call, but it could be in the beginning. Who knows? Basically, this isn't going to be left for Darnold to figure out on the field. He'll be provided with that. And so he'll have an idea of those tendencies, while they're leaving the huddle and lining up. Okay, I got their 4-2-5 nickel, et cetera, et cetera. Or in this case, I've got their Sam linebacker lined up to the field. Again, Barmore is let me go to the end zone. So here's 48, the 5 technique. Barmore is to his side. The 1 technique to his side. There's the rush or the jack. The reason why I'm calling him the rush or the jack is because you've got 3 dedicated defensive linemen with their hand in the dirt. 3-point stance.
Right, and he's standing up.
That's right. So this guy and this guy are not the same. My suspicion is, I know we're not under center here, but my suspicion is if we were under center and you get the running back here, that this guy is going to veer off the quarterback pretty quickly. Versus if you, again, I know we're not under center, but if you got run here, I think this guy is going to run down the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, he's going to chase it, right?
And so I could be wrong. I could be way wrong. Look, the cool thing is for me, ain't nobody on the broadcast going to talk about this anyway, so I'm not going to be proven wrong.
This is true. This is true, Coach.
They should. I don't know if you're a UFC fan, but those guys will talk about what's working as an entry, what's not working. They'll talk about data in live time, obviously. But the main thing they'll do is say, like on the ground, like jiu-jitsu stuff, if he gets his right arm under here and controls the wrist, he'll be able to spin out the back door. They don't talk about anything personnel, at all on a broadcast and they should, or they should just put the graphic down here so you can see it if you wish and you can ignore it if you want to also.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you.
As that's bothered me for years, man. So sorry to rant about it on your show.
Oh no, it's something that bothers me too. As a coach, sometimes I struggle just watching the broadcast. I'd rather just watch the All-22 version of it. So I can make my own notes, my own adjustments, and everything like that.
Yeah. So this is this. I know we've gone back and forth between the two views, but there's your 3 down linemen. There's your jack, rush, linebacker, whatever. There's the Sam set to the field again. Look at the depth of the corners. It's the same depth like we talked about a little while ago. So C.J. Stroud knows what he's going to get from a reaction standpoint to these two guys when they run this double slants. Maybe the Patriots come up with some new looks. I don't know that in their brain, they necessarily need to right now because 26 points allowed in 3 games. Like what would you change?
Well, exactly.
I think
that's the question, right? Do they feel they need to change anything? To your point, they've dealt with Herbert, they've dealt with C.J. Stroud, they've dealt with Stidham, which I think again is kind of a situation where they got a little lucky in that one, but you haven't been really threatened as a defense currently. So why would I change anything? Why wouldn't I let my players still play fast and comfortable the way they've been?
Absolutely. And also too, they've faced 2 teams with compromised offensive lines, the Chargers and the Texans. The Chargers have had catastrophic injuries to their offensive line in 2025. That was it's not just Joe Alt, it was other guys as well. The Texans were in the same boat. I think this guy had played tackle for part of the year. Maybe I'm thinking of the other side, but both of those offensive lines radically different than what the Seahawks are going to offer. That's the obvious weak spot or relative weakness for the Seahawks offense for sure. If I'm the New England Patriots, I want Milton Williams or Christian Barmore here in a 3 technique against Bradford. That's what I do. So that's another thing to look for from a fan standpoint, depending on what you guys as listeners and viewers, like to do. Some people just like to watch the game. Sometimes I do, but
I find it hard just to watch the game, right? So, but no, that's an interesting point on who they'll line up on Bradford, whether it is Milton, whether it is Bormer there, and line him up in that 3 tech and see how much havoc they can create.
Usually, again, another thing that you can do as a fan to kind of try to figure out what the Patriots are thinking is if 51 is on the field, that's typically them in run stopping mode. 53 is a guy that when they're in their nickel defense, 53 is on the field. 48 and 51 are not. Well, I say that they're on the field against the Ravens because Robert Spillane did not play that game. So 51 had to be on the field in their nickel look, but generally he is not.
Right.
You have a little bit more time?
Yeah, Coach, go for it. Go for one more clip here, and then we'll wrap up the show.
So another look that you could maybe anticipate, and this is with 48 on the field. 4-3 guys, some call it 6-1 Lightning. I mean, there's different names. Who cares? Like, you don't have to have the same name, guys. But this is something that also you can use to predict their favorite stunt, or at least have some awareness of it if you want to. And that's this right here. When they take one of their inside linebackers, it's never going to be Spillane. Spillane is criminally underrated, and he has been his whole career. The Pittsburgh Steelers let him go to the Raiders because they didn't want to pay him money. And the Pittsburgh Steelers spent the next 2-3 years trying to solve their inside linebacker problems. They had the guy they needed. So he'll never be walked up, or very rarely, unless it's a mug, unless it's 3rd and 8, and they're faking a blitz. But this is a little bit of an indicator, him walking up. The reason why they're doing it is because the Texans motion another receiver across, and they have this stunt called.
Right.
So because they have that stunt called, 51 walks up. So when I say that they're multiple, what I mean is they'll adapt their look based on the formation and the motion that you show. I think Seattle should be snapping the football quickly sometimes because these guys do rely on adjusting, verbally with each other on the field. Whereas Seattle is, a little bit like whatever Mike McDonald calls is what we're going to run, to an extent.
Right. Well, and that
But
kind of, with Seattle, they kind of got caught in that a little bit in the NFC Championship game because Stafford quick snapped on them a few times and caught them in an adjustment point. And yeah, it definitely has its dividends for sure.
the Texans are onto it, and I think, somewhere along the line, these offensive linemen, somebody said something because they saw 51 move, because you can watch how these guys step. They're anticipating it. And so my point is the Seahawks, I'm sure, are, prepared for it. I'm not giving anybody revolutionary information. What I like to do if I do previews is give you fans who are going to watch the game, hopefully, maybe an increased ability to recognize these things before they happen, whether that's 5% increase, 7 or 10%. I enjoy that aspect of doing this, and it makes the games more enjoyable for me to watch as well. I know I didn't do a complete overview of their defense. I feel like, I have time before the Super Bowl to segment it. Number one, number two, I can't do a 2-hour video on your show. I did record an hour video on my channel earlier today, though.
Yeah, no, and that's something I can't wait to see. I love watching your stuff, Coach. So no, I really appreciate your time breaking down, the Patriots defense. What are some key tells for them going into this game, and for the viewers to be able to get a look at it and basically kind of have an idea. Maybe they'll run it in the background while the game's on, so they can actually use the information you provided to kind of give themselves an edge. But thank you so much again, Coach, for your time. But while you're here, Coach, let my listeners know where they can find more of your content.
Yeah, All-22 Films on YouTube, and then my Twitter handle's terrible. I wish I knew how to change it, but it's All-22 Films is the header, but the tagline or the user handle, is terrible. But I spend most of my time on those two platforms. I do have a Seahawks Discord that's not as busy as the Ravens Discord. Well, especially not in the last 7 days, because the Ravens Discord's been nuts with Jesse Minter's hiring. But the Seahawks Discord, I think, has 22 or 24 people in it, so it's it's quite active, and try to post some plays up in there as well. I don't know about you, it's kind of bittersweet to get to the end of the season, but draft season's upon us, as obviously, for where you guys are now.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's that thing of, that, the next Sunday from here, it'll be the end of the season regardless, because I don't even count the Pro Bowl game as anything to look forward to like it used to be way, way, way back. But yeah, now it's draft season, and there's some interesting guys in this class, so it'll be interesting. But once again, Coach, really appreciate your time, and look forward to having you back on the show in the future.
After you guys win the Super Bowl, you mean?
Exactly. After we win the Super Bowl, we'll break down some more film on how Seattle got it done.
All right, man. Thanks a whole lot. Appreciate the invite always.
Thanks, Coach. All right, everyone. That was Coach Derek from All-22 Films joining me on the show today. And he gave some great insight to what this New England Patriots defense is going to do when they try and play the Seattle Seahawks, and some of the things Seattle can actually take advantage of in this game with where their alignments are, where to run some of those runs with K9 into the boundary. Maybe they do give Sam more opportunities to make checks with who's lined up in press versus off coverage, and when they have run calls on. So it'll be really interesting to see what ends up happening on Super Bowl Sunday, how Seattle makes some adjustments to this multiple front that the New England Patriots are going to propose to the Seattle offense on Sunday. So if you haven't already, make sure you guys like, subscribe to the channel, click that notification button if you never want to miss an episode. Feel free to hop into the Discord. All of those things can be found up in the left corner there, where the QR code is there. Scan that. It'll give you all the access to the Hawkeye podcast and all the things that's offered there. And if you guys want more draft coverage, there is a playlist that's being built on the YouTube page with all of my observations and reactions to the Senior Bowl, as I'm currently still down here. Will be for one more day as I watch the game, and then I will be back in the Pacific Northwest on Monday night, and we'll get into more Seahawk content leading up to the Super Bowl. And as always, thanks for the support. Stay loud, be proud, and go Hawks. Have a good night, everybody.